What it do, KTTeeV? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of the Daily K Podcast. And on today's episode, we have Dr. Tangela Terrell from Worth in Mental Health Wellness. How you doing today, Dr. Tangela?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I want to say thank you for taking some time out. I know it's been crazy with the pandemic, with the back and forth orders that we're getting, and so just a lot going on. So thank you for taking a few minutes out today.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to take the time out of my day to spend with you.
So as we talk about mental health wellness from Worth It, can you give me a little bit of background about you and the work that you're doing currently?
Well, currently, I'm just starting out with my business, Worth It. I wanted to make sure that I can use my platform to share mental health information to not just those who are in the school system because I am a teacher, but I also wanted to share with the community members and people all across the world actually so that we can change the paradigm that we're hearing and the stigma that's related to mental illness.
How are things going for your school during the pandemic? I know this is closeout time. So how did things go up until this point for you?
It's been for parents especially. It's been very stressful. I do work in an urban school, which is really close, right outside of Washington D.C. And 99% of our students are low income students, free and reduced lunch students, and their parents they can't take off work. They have to go to work in order to make ends meet. And a lot of times as they're going to work, they're leaving their kids at home and they're trying to get their children to do the assignments and to understand. And they really don't have the resources to stay home and make sure that their children are getting, the education that they really want for them. So it's been very stressful for a lot of parents. I hear it every day and they call me and they message me and they say, Miss Terrell, I don't know what to do. Show me. So I'm walking them through, because technology is not where everyone is, even though we want it to be something that's just global, but it's just not because it's not accessible to a lot of our students and their parents who are low income. So walking them through the platforms so that they know how to log on, how to watch the videos, and how to submit their assignments. So I've been going through all of that with them and the babies, and making sure that our teachers are okay as well, because, our teachers, we're struggling as well, and we want to do the best, and we want the best for our students. But right now, our principal continue to tell us, make sure you're okay. And I think that's very important right now. Self-care and making sure that everyone is taking care of themselves.
Amen. That has to be okay. Because we did a lot at the beginning to kind of get things pushed out to get everybody set up online, and it was a big drive. And so as the administrator, I want to be like, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. But as the human, I'm saying, well, okay, do as much as you can because not only do you have to worry about your kids who you care for, but you have your kids at home too. And it's just been a lot. So I'm glad that we're kind of winding it down, and then we were able to get a snapshot of what's to come if we're here in the fall. And what's your current role at your school?
I am math coach, and I'm also the PBIS coach, which is the Positive Behavior Interventions and Support coach. And I'm also the mentor teacher in the building. I mentor new teachers who are coming into the county and making sure that they are, we can keep them because we're losing a lot of good teachers, And so what I do is I help them to ensure that we keep the good teachers.
I know that education is one part of you, the mental health is another part. And so as I read, I know that you have a child that's special needs. And so how did that influence you? Did it influence you to be an educator, or did it influence you to later learn more about the situation and go into the mental health?
Well, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I remember playing school when I was really, really little, and I always wanted to be the teacher. So I've always wanted to be an educator. But I knew that my son had ADHD as I went into mental health, learning about it and becoming a certified trainer in mental health. I knew that he had ADHD, but I thought something else was wrong. My husband and I, we continued to talk and we were like, something else is there, but we couldn't figure it out. We didn't know what to tell the psychologist and the psychiatrist when we took him in for evaluations. We didn't have the right words because we really didn't know what we were seeing. And so once I started training, I started to identify the signs and symptoms of mental health illnesses that I was seeing in him. And I was like, one day I was in the middle of a training, and I think I said something about children who suffer from who have autism, and it clicked and it hit me. And I think I stopped mid sentence and my mouth was just hanging open, and I couldn't even go any further because I automatically realized that my son was showing signs and symptoms of autism. So we are now working to get him the help and the support that he needs for autism. He also has been diagnosed with ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder. He also has a disorder that is a dissociative disorder. They have it's unspecified at this time, but a lot of times he doesn't even remember what he did, because he's disassociating himself. And one of the things is, because our son, he is adopted. And so we don't have the background information and the background knowledge to even piece together what's really going on. So we're drawing from the parental instincts of, okay, my baby's not okay. So yeah, it has really been a big influence on the education of my son and helping him to find the right supports that he needs.
Well, as
Mhm.
an before I was an administrator, I taught as a special education teacher, and I only worked with emotionally disturbed kids throughout my entire teaching career. So, I mean, a lot of those I understand where you're coming from and how difficult they are.
Mhm.
So I commend you for just getting to the bottom of it, especially without the background research that you're not able to do.
Yes.
I know that could be frustrating at times, so I just commend you
Yes.
for working hard. As we talk about worth it mental health wellness, what inspired you to start that?
I see African Americans every day, my students in my classroom, and I see African Americans on the street. Sometimes I just stop and I watch people. And when some people are exhibiting signs of a mental health disorder or they're in a mental health crisis. And it's so sad to see our people, African Americans, who are not able to get the resources that they need so that they can get the mental health um, that they need. It's sad. And not only that, the stigma that surrounds our culture and our communities concerning mental health. I want to help us to remove the stigma of mental health. And I always talk about when I go out and I do keynote speeches and I go out and I do these trainings, so many times people come to me because I do share my story. I do have a mental health issue. I have an anxiety disorder and I also have depression. And people come to me afterwards and they say, "You don't look like you have a mental health illness." My question is, what does a person who has a mental health illness look like? And that's the stigma surrounding mental health in African American communities, and not only African American communities, but African American community is my community. And when they say that to me, it's like, okay, what do you think that looks like? And they go on and they give us those words, you look crazy, you look wild, your hair should be everywhere. And it's like, that's not what mental health or mental illness looks like. That's what's stereotypical that you might see on television of what a person with a mental health illness looks like. But that's not what we look like. We look like me. And what the great thing is, I'm able to say, and I'm functional. I have a job. I am successful, and I'm going to continue to be successful. So that's my message, and that's why I started Worth It, because it is so worth it to get the help in order that you can sustain your life and be healthy, not just physically, but mentally. We a lot of times African Americans, you see us running and we're walking and we're trying to maintain these bodies, but we forget about the mental part. And if you don't have your mental in check, you're not healthy. That's my message, and that's why I started Worth It.
Yeah, and I will tell you something that's even small to me, but it's still big. When I first talked to you, I said mental health and wellness, and I separated it. But you say no, don't separate it. Keep it
Mhm.
all together. And just
Yeah,
like you say, all of that is important. You
yeah.
know, I've been doing the Wellness Wednesdays, and this will be like I want to say the fourth one because as soon as the pandemic started, I made a lot of videos just talking to teachers to try to give other schools and resources of smaller schools. And I was able to connect people. And so I say, okay, now it's time to turn the page because we're about to go on the other side of it. And how do we
Right.
go out in person and be around people? And so now let's start thinking about our mindset. And so that's why I started this. And so
Oh,
thank you for being a part of it, as we share the same thing. But
yeah.
that brings me to the trainings. Can you talk a little bit about the trainings?
I have 3 sets of trainings. And the reason I did that is because we have people, first of all, my mental health first aid is an 8-hour training. And when I say 8 hours, it's literally 8 hours. And we go right to the brink of the 8 hour period because it is so much information jam packed into that time. And then when you're finished with the class, you become a certified first aider. And when I say a first aider, I want you to think about, what do you think about physical first aid? That's first aid for the body. You make sure that if you got a cut, you got your band-aid, and then if you hold that bandage there until you can get to a doctor or to the hospital if you need stitches. Well, mental health first aid is the same thing. It's providing care for someone who's having a mental illness crisis until they can get to the right supports. So it's an 8 hour training where you have hands on, you have discussions, you have group work, you have all kinds of activities going on in this 8 hour period where you can learn and be able to take the information away and immediately use it. And then you are a certified mental aid first aider. And you're able to have the certification to go out, and it lasts for 3 years. So you'll have to come back and get recertified. But you can use that information to help a youth or an adult. There also, I've written a curriculum for a 4 hour training as well, and it's just a condensed version. Is not a part of mental health first aid, but it is a condensed version so that people can still learn the symptoms and the signs of mental illness. And not only that, but also drug addiction and those types of things as well, because that is a part of mental illness. So I compact that into 4 hours so that they can learn the information that they need and take it out. Also, I do the 2 hour training, which is even smaller amount of time, but I still try to give you the information that you need in order that you can identify mental illness signs and symptoms.
Mm. And have you adjusted these for the pandemic? So can I go online, or are you doing any virtual like Zooms or anything like that?
Well, thank you. I'm glad you asked.
Hey.
Well, we're currently, the great thing, Mental Health First Aid is a worldwide company, and it originated in Australia. Right now, the mental health first aid in Australia, those who wrote the curriculum, they're actually right now writing a curriculum that can be done online. And that curriculum is coming out in June, and then I'll have to go back and get certified for distance learning for mental health first aid, but it is coming. I'm also doing a condensed version of mental health trainings for online, and it will just be an hour training as well. So you can get the 8 hour training online coming in June, but I'm also doing a condensed version of a 1 hour training so that you can get some information just in case you're not able to do the 8 hour training.
And so how do these two trainings, so like we have everything on the work side, and then we have the first aid. And so how do they run like side by side, or how do you merge the two? So if I want to come and be a client of Worth It, will I get that training as well, or how does that go?
Well, you would have to identify, do you have the time? Because a lot of people say 8 hours, that's a lot. Yes, it's a lot, but if you want everything, including being certified, you want that 8 hour training. Especially people here in the state of Maryland, if you are a counselor in the school system, you have to have a training that focuses on mental health and suicide. And mental health first aid is one of those trainings to help our counselors here in the state of Maryland in the school system to maintain their certification to be school counselors. So you will want that 8 hour training, and it's the best. But I know that there are some people, such as people who might not have the money to be able to come and do the 8 hour training, because one person coming to my training, they will spend $130 for training for per person. Some people don't have that. But I want those people that don't have that to still be able to come and get some information so that they can use it in order to restore themselves, their families, and anyone that's around them.
Mm. And what other services do you offer at Worth It Mental Health Wellness?
I do a free training. It's a 30-minute training, but it just gives an overview of what mental health first aid is all about. And it's free to any organization that want me to come in and say, I heard about mental health first aid, but I'm not quite sure that I get it or I understand what you're doing. So I'll come into your company and I'll do a 30-minute training on everything that it goes into mental health first aid. I'm also a mental health keynote speaker. And within that platform, when I come out and I speak, I tell you about my background, my life. And it wasn't a pretty life, but I'm here and I made it. And that's the whole story and the essence of it. It is worth having therapists in your life because they help you to thrive and they help you to grow, even if you've gone through trauma in your life.
Hmm. And as a mental health professional in the African American community, um, and since the pandemic has been going, have you seen an uptrend of any people reaching out to you? And has it been a targeted number of situations, or like the same thing?
Most people are in this place of needing to be touched. And that's just it. Being quarantined, some people live by themselves. They don't have family in their home. And so being quarantined, means that there's a lack of touch. And people need touch. We all know that. We've seen the studies on babies who weren't touched and what happens and what it does to the mental capacity. And that's happening to our people right now. Um, a lot of people are not being touched, and there is a lot of people who are saying, Tangela, I'm depressed. What can I do? And the biggest message is self care. Do something today to make you happy, no matter what it is, and no matter how silly you might feel doing it. If it's something that you like doing, do it. I'm the worst dancer in the world. And I will dance and dance and dance, and my kids are looking at me like, "Really, Ma?" Yep, because I like doing it, and it makes me laugh and it makes me happy. That's for me. And so, if it's going to make you happy, I say do it, because right now, that's all we have is ourselves, and then what makes us happy, and our loved ones. We got to make sure that we're reaching out to our loved ones, by Zoom, by telephone, or however we can reach them. We got to make sure that we're having some contact with the outside world.
Thank you, Doc. And so, what's next for you and the Worth It brand?
Well, I'm going to start working on writing my book. I've started that process actually. It's a daunting task, and I don't think that I've started it several times and I never finished. And I think it's because of the memories that pour. When you're writing, a lot comes from you. Stuff that you've forgotten about comes out. And so I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, I forgot that even happened. But I'm coupling my life story with information about mental health. With this story comes all this information about mental health and what depression looks like and what you can do and what anxiety look like and what you can do about it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm also coupling with some other organizations who have a big impact in our world today, and I'm coupling with them to do some trainings, not just here in the United States, but abroad, working with those women across the seas and oceans in other countries who might have gone through some trauma, such as sex trafficking. I'm working on a dynamic program to present to them about their mental health and restoring their mental health.
Health is wealth, and if it was ever a time that we need it,
Mhm.
it's right now. Because like I say, I've talked to a lot of people, and that touch, just I've never video called so many of my friends before. Like they wouldn't even pick up a FaceTime or anything. But now it's people only want to talk about video, because it's
Mhm.
like it's how I'm getting out.
Yep.
And so
Right.
are you all are reopening up that way though, right?
We're trying. Yeah, we're trying. We started the first phase of reopening on Friday, and so it was so beautiful here on Friday. Everyone was out, so it was good to see people out. But still, I'm still a little leery, so I'm not quite sure, if we're really that safe to be going out and having these big parties and things like that. So yeah, we started the process.
Okay, someone sees the interview and they want to get in touch with you. What's the contact information?
All right, they can contact me by email. It's tangela.terrell@zohomail.com. So that's TANGELIA.TERRELL at Zoho mail.com. And then they can contact me on my website, and that is www.worthitmhfa.com.
All right, I think that will do it for us. I just wanted to say again, thank you, Dr. Terrell, for spending a little time today. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank
All right,
you.
this is KT for KTTeeV signing out. 100.